When we talk about Lionel Messi, we're not just talking about football, right? His story is, well, it's really about something deeper. It's about what happens when pure genius gets tested by fate and how it's defined by this quiet, relentless determination.
So let's dive into that journey, you and I. We're going to really focus on this one core idea. How did this quiet hero manage to completely rewrite the rules of his sport?
What does it really take? Well, it's a story about overcoming obstacles that, honestly, would have stopped pretty much anyone else in their tracks. And that journey, that's where the real story is.
Okay, so to really get this, we've got to go all the way back. Back to the very beginning. We're talking the streets of Rosario, Argentina, way back in 1987. This is where it all started. And from the absolute second he first touched a football, everyone could see it. This kid was different. He had this effortless control, like the ball was just an extension of his foot, a sense of balance that it defied physics. And his speed, with the ball, it just didn't seem natural. It was the kind of raw, pure talent that looked impossible. But here's the crazy part. This incredible, once-in-a-lifetime gift, it was almost taken away before the world even got a chance to see it. Seriously, his journey was this close to being over before it ever really began.
See, as a young boy, Messi got this diagnosis, a growth hormone disorder. It meant he wasn't growing properly, and the treatment he needed was just unbelievably expensive, way more than his family could ever afford. So just like that, his entire future in football was thrown into doubt. Yeah, clubs saw his talent, they all admired him, but nobody was willing to take that kind of financial risk.
And this right here, this is what's so fascinating. It perfectly captures the huge conflict at the very heart of his early story. You've got this unbelievable once-in-a-generation gift on one side, and then on the other, this massive physical and financial wall that just seemed impossible to climb.
And then, everything changed. This is the moment. Out of all the clubs that hesitated, that said no, one team saw something different. They looked right past the risk and saw the potential. FC Barcelona. They made a bet, and it wasn't just on a talented player. They were betting on a future legend, and they put their money where their mouth was. They offered to pay for his entire treatment.
Just let that sink in for a second. He's just 13 years old. 13! And he leaves his home, his family, everything familiar, to move halfway across the world. That's a huge, immense sacrifice, all to chase this one dream that Barcelona had just made possible.
So, this journey takes him to La Masia, Barcelona's world-famous academy. And this is where the quiet kid from Rosario really starts to transform into the icon we know today.
And this is what I love about him. It shows this incredible contrast in his personality. Off the field, he was this small, quiet, humble kid. He just let his work do the talking. But the moment he stepped onto the pitch, he became this unstoppable force of nature. His left foot didn't just kick a ball, it told stories that words could never capture. And his rise from there was just meteoric. He makes his senior debut at only 17, and from that point on, it's just an era of pure dominance. We're talking countless Ballon d'Ors, Champions League titles, the works. And of course, there was the rivalry, his legendary back and forth with Cristiano Ronaldo. Wow. It became the defining story of a generation, right? This relentless, epic duel that pushed both of them, and honestly, the entire sport, to heights we never thought were possible.
But here's the thing. For all the incredible success, all the glory he found in Europe with Barcelona, his heart never left his home country, Argentina. And that's where his greatest and his most painful struggle was about to unfold.
For years and years, he just couldn't seem to make it happen with Argentina. He couldn't replicate that same magic he had with his club. And this led to some absolutely heartbreaking defeats in major finals. And with that came this immense, crushing pressure from an entire nation that was just desperate for glory.
He was criticized, doubted, and at times he was even blamed for the team's biggest heartbreaks. But his response was never to lash out. There were no loud protests. Instead, he just came back every single time, ready to fight for his country with that same quiet, totally unbreakable determination.
And that relentless spirit, that refusal to give up, it set the stage for what would become one of the greatest redemption stories in the history of all sports. Seriously. This was a victory that was years, even decades in the making. The first big breakthrough came in 2021.
He leads Argentina to win the Copa America, and you could just feel the weight of a nation lift off his shoulders. But then came 2022, and destiny was finally fulfilled. He guided his country to win the FIFA World Cup, the one trophy that had always eluded him. And in that moment, he cemented his legacy as the greatest of all time.
So, in the end, what is Messi's journey really about? It's proof of this one simple truth. From those dusty streets in Rosario all the way to the peak of world football, his story shows us that true greatness, it isn't just about talent. It's forged in humility, through struggle, and with an unwavering, unbreakable belief in your dream.
So how will we remember him? His legacy isn't really just in the trophies or the ridiculous number of records he broke. It's in the millions of people he inspired. And he did it without grand speeches. He did it with a quiet humility and a kind of genius that let the magic happening at his feet do all the talking for him. Hey, if this story of perseverance hit home for you, let us know. You can like, share, and definitely subscribe for more deep dives that go behind the legends. Thanks for watching.